Hello everybody, welcome to A Study in Celluloid. I'm Spencer Henderson and today I'm going to be talking to you about Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, directed by Zack Snyder. Batman vs. Superman introduces us to a darker, older version of Batman who has recently been monitoring Superman's activity and doesn't really like what he sees, so he decides that he's going to try to take down the Man of Steel. And there's other plots with Lex Luthor and other supervillains and superheroes involved in this movie. Let me start off with what I liked about Batman vs. Superman. First off, most of the praise that I understand about this movie is going towards Ben Affleck's Batman, or Batflick, as people like to call it. And I'll add a little bit to the praise. I think that Ben Affleck did a pretty dang good job. He was definitely the best part of the movie, in my opinion, as far as Batman goes and how he looked. It was pretty cool. There was an introductory scene to his character of Batman, not Bruce Wayne, but the Batman character, that I thought was pretty effective and cool. And that's another thing about this movie, is there were lots of really, really cool scenes. One of the set pieces I actually really liked in this movie was the very first one, featuring Bruce Wayne, a human, on the ground during the fight between General Zod and Superman at the end of the first movie, Man of Steel. It felt super grounded, seeing as Batman is a human who can die at any moment, running through the city while buildings are collapsing, and he has something to lose that I won't spoil in the city. And I thought that part was pretty neat, actually. That leads me to another thing I liked about this movie, were the action scenes with Batman, particularly the one where he's taking on all the thugs that you probably saw in one of the trailers. That scene was awesome. I wanted to see more of that in the movie. It frankly was probably the coolest Batman action scene we've ever seen, and that was the moment in the movie that I completely and totally loved every single part of. If the entire movie would have had action scenes like that, I would have liked it a lot more. And with that being said, I think that's a good segue to get into what I didn't like about the movie, which unfortunately is most of the movie. First of all, there will be like minor spoilers in this review, I guess. I mean, I'm not going to be talking about anything that wasn't in the trailer, or at least talking in depth about anything that wasn't in the trailer. I mean, I won't tell you any of the big events that happen in the movie, but if you saw the trailer with the big villain at the end of it, and if you didn't, I won't spoil it for you, then you've essentially seen Batman versus Superman. So first of all, this movie is such a mess. Like, it is almost 3 hours long, or at least it felt like it was almost 3 hours long, and the pacing and narrative is really sloppy in this movie. There's lots of stretches where, as an audience member, which I'm usually very patient when I watch movies, but it was very similar to how I felt in Man of Steel. I just like zoned out and, lost interest in what was going on, because either there were too many things going on at once, or it just like had the same thing going on for so long and too much of the same thing that I just completely zoned out of the movie. And that really comes to show that the simplicity of action movies, like something like Mad Max Fury Road, that's just one scene after the other, is to get you to the next scene. So the scene that's currently playing should push us on to the next scene, and then the scene after that should push us on to the next scene. That's not the case in Batman vs. Superman, unfortunately. There were lots of moments where I was just like, why is this scene even in the movie? There's one extremely random moment with Superman where he goes out to the Fortress of Solitude, and it lasts like 2 minutes in the movie, and it's supposed to be this big moment for the character, but you don't really like care about why he's there. And honestly, it just felt like a giant waste of time, that scene. And there's at least like six dream sequences in this movie that they could have gotten rid of every single one of those and shredded the runtime, and I would have been fine with it. Now, I remember when I first saw the second trailer, I believe, the one that spoiled everything for this movie, with Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, and I cringed like when he first came in. I was like, "Oh no, this isn't happening," and it happened. Okay, I'm here to break it to you. It happened. This is breaking news from a study in celluloid. They done messed up this time. Oh man, I cringed the entire time that guy was on screen. I didn't even really like one thing about his performance. Essentially, he plays a cartoon character. Every single thing that he did is like so unsubtle, and you'd have to be lobotomized to not know that he was a criminal mastermind. Oh man, I really, really did not like Jesse Eisenberg in this movie. And that's not to say I don't like Jesse Eisenberg. I really, really, really liked him in Social Network, and I liked him in Adventureland. I liked him in Zombieland. He does a good job in those sorts of roles, but there's just because he can talk smart in Social Network doesn't cut him out to play a supervillain. I mean, utilize his talents properly. Don't put him in something like this where it's like you have to be menacing, because Jesse Eisenberg is not intimidating. And like that's the thing, is even in like the Social Network, he's extremely smart, but his character's not intimidating because he's like some nerdy kid. And that's how he looks in this movie, is some nerdy kid. And when he's standing next to like Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck, Superman and Batman, you're like, what? Like, how is this guy even like a threat to you guys, even with what he's doing, the stakes that he like raises or whatever? They never felt that dangerous, or I don't know. And the resolution between the fight between Batman versus Superman, and if you thought that this movie was just going to be all about their fight and they weren't going to like become friends in the end and mend fences to overcome a greater enemy, then I don't know what to say for you. You're obviously not very bright. But the resolution between Batman and Superman is one of the most sloppy moments in recent movie history. It's not very good, guys. I'm sorry to break it to you, but it's not. It's probably just as bad as Man of Steel, in my opinion. Zack Snyder is not the man to make a Superman movie. I think there were moments in this movie where it's like, man, he might make a cool Batman movie, but I'm not so much going to complain about his direction. What really is the issue here, I think, is the script. Because you have people of talent working on this movie, and there are a couple scenes that have really like cool moments within them, but unfortunately that's not enough to save it like from itself and from what it drifts into. It drifts into like the same exact thing that Man of Steel was in the last hour. And I've heard some people say that the first hour of this movie is like actually good, and I don't know if I agree with you so much. I think there was things to like scattered throughout the movie, but is it really worth like sitting through, almost 3 hours of this to like just see maybe 30 minutes of coolness, and not even greatness, just coolness? I don't know. Overall, I was pretty disappointed, in case you couldn't tell. Catch my drift. There are things to like about it. In fact, there's quite a few things to like about it. But unfortunately, it drags itself down too often. It's too self-serious. It's absolutely no fun. There's one fun scene in the entire movie. And if you like sitting around watching people look miserable, this is going to be your Citizen Kane. But unfortunately for me, I wasn't a fan. Sorry. I'm going to give Batman vs. Superman a 4 out of 10. If you're interested in it, check it out still. Rent it maybe. If you're really dying to see it in theaters, go see it in theaters. I'm not going to stop you. But don't say I didn't warn you. And if you like it, I mean, good for you. That's good. I'm happy. I'm really happy. I wish I liked it too. Coming to you from Colorado, I'm Spencer Henderson, and this is a study in celluloid.